"We don't need some poor girl from a single-mother household," my mother-in-law shouted, her voice dripping with contempt. "My son deserves so much better. Call off the wedding." Her words felt like a slap in the face, humiliating both me and my mother in front of all the guests. "Maybe I do come from a single-mother household, but," I began, attempting to protest. Before I could finish, she struck me hard across the face. The sharp sting of her hand burned my cheek like fire, and tears immediately welled up in my eyes. I stumbled, collapsing to the floor under the weight of the blow. This day was supposed to be the happiest of my life, but now everything was falling apart right before my eyes. My name is Abigail. I'm 29 years old and work in an office in New York. My days are always packed, so much so that my coworkers often tease me by calling me a workaholic. But outside of work, I have a fiancé, Ezra. "Could you handle these boxes for me?" Ezra's voice pulled me out of my thoughts. It was warm but firm, and when I glanced up, he was standing a few steps away, arms crossed, with that playful smile that always made my heart skip a beat. "Sure, just give me a second," I replied, juggling the stack of papers in my hands. His confidence always had this way of rubbing off on me, though it also left me a bit self-conscious, especially when he looked at me like that, as if he trusted me completely. We met while working at the same company, and after some time, our relationship grew into something more. Ezra is the kind of guy everyone notices, cheerful, charismatic, and incredibly popular with the women in our department. People often called him a prize catch, someone way out of my league. Even now, I sometimes wonder how I, so ordinary by comparison, managed to capture his heart. It all began during a project where I was given my first leadership role. I was overwhelmed and had no idea what I was doing, but Ezra was there to guide me through it, patiently and kindly. "You're really dedicated to your work, Abigail," he told me once. "That's a quality I really admire." Each time he encouraged me, I felt my feelings for him grow deeper. Eventually, he told me he felt the same way, and from that point, we began dating. As our relationship blossomed, I found myself wanting to be someone who could support him just as much as he supported me. Then, one day, Ezra proposed. I still remember the moment vividly, how I smiled and said yes, my heart bursting with joy as I accepted the ring he offered me. From then on, we started preparing for our wedding. Meeting his parents for the first time was nerve-wracking, but they welcomed me warmly. They told me how happy they were that Ezra had found someone like me, which left me feeling relieved and hopeful. Later, we planned for my mother to meet his family. My mom has a demanding job, so we carefully picked a day that worked for everyone and arranged to meet at a traditional restaurant. "So, Abigail, where's your father?" my future mother-in-law asked me during the meal. "Oh, I grew up with just my mom," I said. "My father passed away a long time ago." As soon as I mentioned growing up in a single-parent household, her expression subtly shifted, like something about it had caught her off guard or unsettled her. Her smile faltered for a brief moment, and when she noticed me noticing, she quickly added, "Oh no, that's fine," as if trying to brush it off. But the tension lingered in her face, and I couldn't help but wonder if it bothered her. It's true that some people carry certain biases about single-parent families, but my experience growing up with my mom was nothing but loving and full of warmth. Despite the hardships she faced as a single mother, she raised me with strength and kindness. She's always been my role model, someone I deeply admire. As I spoke about her, I got a little carried away, trying to convey just how wonderful she is. When I glanced at my mom, she was smiling softly, her hand resting on my shoulder. "Thank you, Abigail," she said, her gentle tone calming me as it always has. My mom has always been my anchor, my sun, and her smile never fails to comfort me. Still, I couldn't shake the sense that the atmosphere during that dinner wasn't as warm as I had hoped. The unease lingered, even after we said our goodbyes. Even though I felt a bit nervous about what lay ahead, Ezra and I managed to finish planning our wedding. The venue was grand, the flowers were perfect, and my dress, it was everything I had ever dreamed of. Sitting in my room, I stared at the dress, letting myself feel the excitement as I waited for the ceremony to begin. Everything was ready, or so I thought. Suddenly, The peaceful anticipation was interrupted by loud voices and commotion coming from the hallway. My heart sank as I got up and hurried to see what was happening. There, in the middle of the corridor, was my mother-in-law, causing an unbelievable scene. "This bride is just after our family's money," she screamed, her voice echoing off the walls. "She and her mother are nothing but gold diggers. How disgusting! Bring her out here. Let me slap that face of hers." Her words were sharp and cruel, filled with such venom that even the guests nearby froze, unsure of how to react. Some quietly stepped away, trying to avoid the chaos, while others stared in shock. The staff glanced at me with worried expressions, silently asking for guidance. I held up a hand to signal them to stand down and took a deep breath, trying to stay composed as I walked toward her. "Mother, is something wrong?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. It didn't take long to notice the smell of alcohol on her breath. Her eyes were unfocused, her steps unsteady. She was clearly drunk. "Have you been drinking?" I asked gently. "If you're not feeling well, maybe you should rest for a bit." I reached out to steady her, hoping to diffuse the situation. But instead of calming down, she suddenly threw the contents of her glass all over me. "We don't need some poor girl from a single-mother household," she shouted, her voice ringing with disdain. "Ezra deserves so much better than this. Call off the wedding." Her words hit me like a slap. She ridiculed my background, insulted my mother, and humiliated me in front of everyone. "With all due respect, Mother, I may come from a single-mother household, but," I began, trying to defend not only myself, but the incredible woman who raised me. But before I could finish, she slapped me hard across the face. The sting of her hand left my cheek burning and my eyes welling up with tears. I stumbled, the force of the slap sending me to the floor. As I sat there, stunned and hurt, she loomed over me with contempt etched into her face. "Ezra deserves better than a gold-digging nobody like you," she hissed, her words dripping with malice. When I first met her, she had seemed so kind, so welcoming. I had truly hoped she would accept me, despite my background. I had even allowed myself to dream of her as a second mother, someone who could fill the small, aching void left by my father's absence. But now, I saw her for who she truly was, a woman filled with prejudice and bitterness. The mother who raised me is my everything. She worked tirelessly to give me a life full of love, warmth, and opportunity. No matter what hardships she faced, she never let me feel like I was missing anything. She gave me everything she had, and I would never forgive anyone who insulted her. This day was supposed to be the happiest of my life. Ezra and I had spent months planning, pouring our time, energy, and money into making it perfect. The venue, the dress, the food, every little detail. And now it was all unraveling before my eyes. My wedding day, the day I had dreamed of, was ruined. As I sat there trembling with rage and humiliation, a voice broke through the chaos. "Abigail, what's going on here?" I looked up to see an older gentleman approaching. He was instantly recognizable, an influential man, known as the president of a major restaurant chain, and a close family friend. His success story was practically legendary, and he was as famous for his TV appearances as he was for his business acumen. Beside him stood another familiar face, a young doctor celebrated for discovering a groundbreaking treatment for a rare disease. Both men were prominent figures, and their presence carried undeniable weight. The doctor noticed my swollen cheek immediately and quietly asked a staff member to bring ice. As I pressed the cold compress to my face, the older gentleman stepped closer, concern evident in his expression. "Abigail, what happened? Are you all right?" he asked gently. Then, after a brief glance at my mother-in-law, he added, "Your mother once told me how proud she is of you. She's an incredible woman, and I can see where you get it from." His words were simple but carried weight. They were enough to make my mother-in-law's face go pale. It seemed she finally realized that the poor girl from a single-mother household she had been mocking wasn't so insignificant after all. Her demeanor shifted instantly, as though a switch had been flipped. "Abigail, are you all right?" she asked, her tone suddenly dripping with concern. "Here, let me help you up." I looked at her extended hand, then pushed it away. "Aren't I just some poor girl from a single-mother household? You wouldn't want to dirty your hands by touching me, would you?" I snapped. Her face fell, panic flickering in her eyes as she seemed to realize how far she had gone. But it was too late. The damage was done, and no amount of fake concern could undo what she had said and done. "Mother," I said firmly, my voice cold and unwavering, "I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Now." "What? What are you talking about? This is my son's wedding. I have to be here," she exclaimed in confusion. "I doubt you'll enjoy watching your son marry a poor girl from a single-mother household, don't you think?" I added with sarcasm. I raised my voice, deliberately emphasizing the phrase, "poor girl from a single-mother household," letting it echo loudly through the room. The words hung in the air for a moment, and then someone let out a muffled snort. It was all the spark the room needed. Soon laughter spread, bubbling up from every corner of the venue. My mother-in-law's face turned a deep, furious shade of red as she realized that every laugh, every amused glance was directed squarely at her. I didn't mean it like that. I'm so sorry, please forgive me," she stammered, clearly flustered. Despite the effort she'd put into her carefully styled hair and elegant dress, she crumpled onto her knees, grabbing at my hands in desperation. "Please, I didn't mean it," she whimpered, her voice shaky. The pitiful display would have been almost funny if it wasn't so pathetic. I felt the corners of my lips twitch with the urge to laugh, but I held it in. Then, a voice behind me broke through the chaos. "What is going on here? Why is there such a commotion?" I turned around, and there she was, my mom. "Mom," I exclaimed, a rush of relief and confidence flooding me at her presence. She stepped up beside me, calm and collected as always. Her eyes met mine, and with a warm, knowing smile, she said, "You did well." That simple affirmation, spoken so softly, sent a wave of strength through me. She placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder before turning to face my mother-in-law. Her voice was gentle but carried an unmistakable weight. "Why, may I ask, do you believe a single-mother household is synonymous with poverty?" Her words were polite, yet her smile held an edge, sharp enough to cut glass. There was an undeniable authority in her tone, and it made the room fall silent. No, that's not what I meant. I just thought, people from single-mother families are probably poor. I didn't mean anything by it." My mother-in-law stammered, her bravado from earlier completely gone. "But you shouted it for everyone to hear, didn't you?" "Surely, that reflects what you truly think," my mother countered, her sharp words slicing through any pretense. My mother-in-law's composure crumbled entirely. Her hands started trembling, and her shoulders slumped under the weight of her humiliation. She looked like she might faint on the spot. My mother, however, wasn't finished. "You're entitled to your personal opinions about single-mother families," she said, her voice firm yet steady. "But you are not entitled to use those opinions to insult or harm others. Throwing a drink at my daughter and striking her is unacceptable behavior. I'm the one who encouraged her to plan such a grand wedding. But after what you've done, it's clear you don't belong here. We won't tolerate anyone who lacks the basic decency to treat others with respect and empathy. Please leave," she demanded. Her words were resolute and final. There was no room for argument. As she finished, she let out a soft breath, as though releasing the last bit of tension. For a moment, there was silence, and then the room erupted in applause. "She's incredible. What a powerful woman!" As expected of someone so accomplished, her words are on another level. "I'm glad I came today. She should give a seminar at my office. Our employees could use this kind of leadership." The voices of admiration rippled through the room as the hotel staff discreetly escorted my mother-in-law out. The scene felt surreal, like something out of a movie, but the strength and confidence radiating from my mom were as real as it gets. I stepped over to her, feeling a swell of pride as I looked at her calm, collected expression. "Mom, you're incredible," I said, my voice filled with admiration. She turned to me, her eyes warm but steady, and gave me a small smile. "She's always been amazing, and she always will be. Single-mother household or not, with or without a father, I was born into the care of the most extraordinary woman in the world. She's my number one, and because of her, I'm the luckiest person alive." The chaos at the wedding was so overwhelming that the entire ceremony had to be called off. Ezra kept bowing his head, apologizing over and over. But I knew deep down I couldn't marry into a family with a mother-in-law like that. So, with heartfelt apologies to him, I broke off our engagement. After witnessing his mother's disgraceful behavior and the chaos she caused, Ezra had no grounds to argue. He simply kept apologizing profusely, accepting my decision. Though I cut ties with Ezra, his mother wasn't ready to let go. "Abigail, I'm so sorry for what happened. Please marry my son, I'm begging you." She started coming to my house again and again, constantly pestering me for another chance. When I moved to escape her harassment, she somehow got a hold of my new phone number and started calling incessantly. She'd alternate between promising to apologize and claiming she finally understood my worth. But I saw through her lies and quickly blocked her number. Even though the wedding never took place, the expenses were still there. Of course, since the cancellation was entirely their fault, they were responsible for covering the costs. My wedding was meant to be extravagant. My mother had even planned to contribute financially, so the fees weren't small. It wasn't the kind of debt an average person could settle overnight. Still, it was only fair. My would-be mother-in-law had ruined the ceremony, and we also demanded compensation for the emotional distress I endured. Her behavior was absolutely unacceptable. She had hurled cruel insults at me, poured a drink on me, and even slapped me. While I didn't have a voice recording of the incident, nearly every guest had witnessed her actions, so denying the truth was impossible. The total amount, wedding costs plus compensation, must have seemed astronomical to her family. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her, but then I remembered how she had demeaned and insulted my mother. It felt like karma catching up to her. After all, if she had no shame in her actions, she could just as well put that same energy into working to pay it all back. From what I heard later, my former mother-in-law's life unraveled further. Her husband served her divorce papers shortly after the fiasco. It seems he tried to help her at first, but when he realized the debts were far too large to repay in a lifetime, he chose to cut ties. Ezra also disowned her, vowing never to forgive her for ruining his chance at marriage. As a result, she was banished from their home and left to fend for herself. Having never worked a day in her life, she ended up in a live-in factory job. She now splits her time between working at the factory during the day and laboring on construction sites at night. It's grueling work, especially for someone her age, and yet, given the massive debt she owes, it's unlikely she'll ever climb out of it. As for me, my mother decided to arrange a formal matchmaking meeting not long after everything settled. She felt guilty, believing her status as a single mother-parent had somehow triggered the disastrous events at my wedding, though she bore no responsibility at all. I reassured her time and again that none of this was her fault, but she insisted on helping, saying it was the only way she could find peace. Through one of her connections, she arranged the meeting, and to my surprise, it was the same doctor who had brought me ice for my cheek during the wedding fiasco. "I was honestly amazed that day," he said, setting his teacup down gently. "I've always admired your mother's strength and composure, but seeing you handle everything with such grace and courage, it left an impression on me. It made me want to be someone who can face challenges as confidently as you did." His words took me by surprise, and I felt a blush rise to my cheeks. "Do you really think I'm like my mother?" I asked, trying to mask my uncertainty. My mother has always been my anchor, the unwavering light that has guided me through every storm. Her strength and determination have been my shield, protecting me in ways no one else could. To hear someone compare me to her felt almost unreal, as though they were describing someone else entirely. For a moment, I wondered if he was just being kind. But then he looked at me, his gaze steady and sincere. "You're very much like her," he said with a soft smile. "When I see you, Abigail, it feels safe, like I don't have to be on edge or try to guard myself. You make it easy to trust, to feel protected. That's what I felt when I saw you that day. You're someone who brings peace just by being yourself." His words struck a chord deep within me. My mother has always been my protector, my unwavering source of comfort and security. But for the first time, I realized I had the capacity to be that for someone else. I could offer the same warmth and reassurance that she had always given me. Looking at him, I felt something shift. I wanted to embody the kind of strength and light my mother had always been for me, not just for her, but for him too. For the first time in a long while, I felt ready to take the next step. This time, I'll shine with the same steady brightness she's always inspired in me.